Welcome to the Live Courageously podcast show. I'm your host, John Duffy, and this is my 56th Live Courageously podcast show since I started the show about 2 years ago. Live Courageously has been the conscious theme of my life for the last 3 years since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, and unconscious theme for most of my life. This is a very, very special show as I make another turn around the sun and celebrate my birthday week. So the next two shows are with my childhood and lifelong friends from my neighborhood in the South Bronx, and we're going to go on a journey way back into our youth. So let's meet today's guest, my good brother Carmelo Berrios. Carmelo grew up in the Mott Haven section of the South Bronx, like myself. He lived through some of the worst days when the Bronx was burning, as we both did, and Carmelo was both my childhood and a lifelong friend. Carmelo was a survivor, went through homelessness, drugs, turned his life around. His passion for music led him to play in many salsa bands all over the country on albums, and just live a whole life of passion for music. He's a husband. He continues to play music in his church in Florida and inspires people with his love of music and his gift of music. So with that, let me welcome and bring out my South Bronx brother, Carmelo, man. A pleasure to have you on the show, my good brother.
Thank you, John. That sounded awesome, man. It's a great feeling to know that I still have good friends after all these years, really. And you're one of them.
Well, we've been through so much together. I'm going to throw up a quick picture of you when you were a little bit younger. And that's a great photo of you, and that goes back to the days when we knew each other, man, on the street there.
Yeah. We did a lot of stickball and football and Johnny on the Pony and all kind of games that today's kids do not understand.
No, I mean, we did all that. We did, a bunch of other things besides. I mean, we did crazy things too. Like, I don't know how many of you that you did with me, but I know we jumped from rooftops. We swam in the East River. We opened up fire hydrants illegally, nonstop. We did a lot.
I didn't want to touch that, but since you did, yeah, that was pretty much crazy moments in our life. The jumping of one end of the roof to another. The building that's adjacent to yours had a little space in between.
My building up right now.
Yes, yeah. That's so. If you look up to the roof, there's a little space between the two buildings, and that little space was pretty dangerous. But we didn't know any better. I jumped it. Nothing to brag about. I would not do that today.
No, I don't think we would. But that building, 400 East 141st Street, that was the corner building that I grew up in and lived 18 years of my life. And you lived down two buildings down.
2 buildings down.
Which was 434, correct?
410.
410. Why do I go? 434 is all the way down the block. 410.
Further down.
Right. Yeah. So you live 2 buildings down from us, and our side of the block was made up of tenement buildings like mine, and then across the street from us was brownstones.
The brownstones
that people owned that thing. So it was like two sides of the street. The people who owned buildings or had I would say the nice neighborhood, right? They lived in the brownstones, and we lived in the tenements.
It didn't matter to us. No, whoever was in the block was part of the family. If you remember the old man with the collies, the 2 collies, and he from time to time will come out and see the kids, which was us, doing our thing, but a lot of good people lived on that side of the street. Yeah, on our side of the street, we got together when it was called for. Games, arguments, fights between other bodies that shouldn't have been in that area to begin with. I personally never indulged in those things, but being there, I witnessed, and but the side with the brownstones That's the more quiet side of the street. Yeah, you're right about that.
I remember, like you say, the fights. It's kind of funny because I remember I didn't engage in them either. I saw them, right, just like you. I mean, I did enough fighting with my brother Pat, who was 4 years older than me. So everybody thought we were like the two crazy Irish kids. So we really didn't have to fight anybody else. We just fought each other, right? So that was enough fighting for us, which was a good thing.
We seen a lot, Duffy. We seen a lot, and if you remember, when the riots were happening back in the mid 67, 68. It was things like that kept the group of guys in the block kind of like straight. We might have done a lot of things, but when we saw riots there, stuff like that, we were like, okay, we don't need to be a part of that craziness. That's beyond what we do.
Well, we experienced, I'm going to show a little bit more later when we get to that. But, like you said, in 67, I think, was the first riots that started out in Harlem. And then kind of came up to our neighborhood because there was two bridges from Harlem into the Bronx, the Willis Avenue and the 3rd Avenue Bridge. Right. So the riots started out in Harlem and then they gravitated up to our neighborhood. And then in 69, there was another set of riots, not as crazy as the 67 ones, if you can say. Right. Not as crazy.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
They were milder and they were kind of more driven for a purpose because the Young Lords was the group that did it at the time, and they started burning garbage, and so it started to be a movement to try and get some change going on. But we'll get back into that. But just to go back into our childhood, when did you come to the block? How old were you? When did you meet me?
I'm thinking spring of 66.
Okay.
Spring of 66, yeah.
So we were both teenagers at the time, obviously.
You were a teenager. I think I was 12. I would have turned 13 that following that January of 67.
Wow.
And so that photo that you saw was taken a year or so within that time. But 66. It's funny, man. 66. I didn't. When I moved to that block, I was like, okay, so I'm here, and I didn't know Victor and his brother. Well, I didn't realize. I didn't know we were related. We were related through my stepfather, my brother's father, their family. Right. And before I met you, I had already known them, and how we got together, we formed a team to play touch football because it was already coming into September. It was already coming into the autumn. And of course, autumn meant football, and it meant, now we can stay out a little longer before it starts getting dark. But yeah, when I met you around 66, late 66, I would have never imagined you to be who you are or turned out to be, because even then I said to myself, well, this is a cool guy. As a matter of fact, you were the only one that stuck out from everyone else. I don't mean to, I'm not showering you with, I'm not showering you with all this beauty, because that's what it is. I was still learning about you. I was still learning about the guys in the block and stuff. And at what was I, 12, 13? At 13, what do I know? I'm still just learning about myself and my neighborhood, my surroundings. But you played a very important role in those early years, a very important role, because though I might have had a few people in my building, I'm going to run you something. So on the fifth floor, you have Toruco. On the 4th floor, you have Roberto and Jimmy Ortega. On the 3rd floor, you had, this is the building I was living in. On the 3rd floor, we had that trio. On the 2nd floor, we have Victor on one side, Jay Martinez on the other side, and I was on the 1st floor. And then our next door neighbor were two brothers that I believe were scientists. You remember that?
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
do.
Okay. And they were there for about another year or two before they actually moved out. But uh when I say that you played an important role was because when I met those in my building, you stood out. You were in a different you were you stood out. You always stood out. Matter of fact, I don't know how you didn't even have a complex. You were just like, I'm part of this. I'm part of this. I breathe, I live, and I can walk through here at any time I want. And that's basically how I saw you. You had no complex. You had no fear. You wasn't tough, and you wasn't, the macho man type. No, you was the simple person that you are, and that's what kept you, you know, uh, close to other people because they saw that in you and they gravitated to that. Even those down the block that we really never hung out with, who hung out with them? John Duffy did.
Well,
Matter of fact, if it wasn't for you, I would have probably never met any of them.
well,
So
thanks
it's you.
thanks for sharing all that, man. I appreciate all those kind comments. But it was kind of, like you said, it was a adjust and adapting. Because here I'm going to put up a quick picture, and you know who this is, and I'll come back to this. That's my mother in the apartment on the third floor where we lived, and that's her. I took a picture of her in front of the wall back there. So I'll come back to that picture.
Wow.
But we grew up. My dad died when I was 4. Me and my brother, who was 4 years older than me, we grew up in the neighborhood changed, right? And all of a sudden, most of the white people cut out. They were afraid. It got poor. It got bad. And so I had to adjust like everybody else. So my friends were everybody. They were older kids. You were the younger kids. I hung with the younger kids.
You didn't show it.
I hung out with, all the Puerto Rican friends, which was our crowd. And then I hung out with the Dominicans in the middle of the block, like Eduardo Gomez Go-Go. And then I hung out, because of him, I hung out with all the black kids who played basketball. So it was kind of like I went back and forth between everybody, and it just felt normal. It didn't feel like.
That's my point. That's my point. But I wouldn't want to separate the nationalities. Here's what I saw. A young man that had no fear. Not that he was tough, but just showed no fear. I am who I am, and I'm going to hang out with my friends. Whether it was, we used to play football, touch football in the street. We had to choose sides. We had a few guys from down the block. We had a few, Gogo, his brother, his older brother. Then you had us from 410, and even your brother, and even those from outside of the block. But the thing is, there was no animosity between color barrier. It was not that. We knew who we were and what we're doing. It wasn't about, please forgive me, it's not about white. There was no white. You see what I'm saying? There was no black. It was human. It was brothers.
Right.
There was a situation once down in the middle of the block, and whoever the person was decided to run towards Willis Avenue. And I remember Viejo telling Macho, Chino's brother, his younger brother, who actually passed away back in those early days, stop him. And he did. He didn't know anything, but he stopped him. And at that point, the crowd kind of converged, and the poor guy, who I don't know who he was and whatever he did, but that's not where he needed to be. But that's what the block was about. It wasn't a name gang. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't who's better than who. No, we just knew each other, and we knew we can hang or not hang. That's where you come in. You didn't focus on any of that. As simple as you made it seem, that's how we took it.
Well, and this is a side of, I'm going to play, because I think it's, something, because everybody who doesn't know the Bronx or the South Bronx, and people who've never experienced it, right? They got one side of it. They know one side of it, and it obviously has had a bad reputation. Some rightfully deserved. But on the other hand, like we're talking about, to us, it was just a neighborhood, man. We had friends, we had fun, we had people, we loved each other. It was our home.
Yep.
And that's what I experienced.
Yep.
And yet from the outside, if you looked at it, you would have been like, oh my God, this is what it is. And it was that, but it wasn't that. So I'm going to play this video. It's a short video. It just shows the worst part of the Bronx during our time. And then we can talk a little bit about it. So just give me a minute to.
Okay. What area would I be looking at?
Well, this is, and I'm going to, let me just throw this map up real quick. This is a map of the Bronx, and these are precincts. So the 41st precinct
is ours.
40th is ours right there, the 40th precinct.
Yeah.
41st was Fort Apache.
Fort Apache. Oh,
that
okay.
was considered supposedly worse than our neighborhood, but it was close. You know, both of them were fairly close. So this kind of deals a little bit more with Fort Apache, which they made a movie about with Paul Newman. Fort Apache.
Well, you have to understand something. These small little districts all had their reputation. The 40th precinct was not one of the worst precincts. Where Fort Apache, they had a reputation for a lot of craziness.
Yeah,
Simpson, Westchester.
That's right. It bled a little bit into our neighborhood at times, but it was and areas were bad too, but not as bad. But I'm gonna play this real quick and
Go ahead.
you know, and then we can come back and talk about this. Okay, let's see. And tell me if you can hear it.
I hear it. Street justice, the Bronx. New York City.
I was born and raised in the Bronx. At one time, the Bronx was a thriving community. But towards the end of the 60s, that started to change. Businesses moved out. Crime moved in. People were left with an overwhelming sense of fear and hopelessness.
No job opportunities, schools being closed down, shop owners leaving. Just imagine World War II bombed out Berlin. It was just a war zone.
Arson, murder, robbery, rape, burglary. It was considered the murder capital in the United States. The worst ghetto in all of the United States.
At the epicenter of this crime wave was the NYPD's 41st Precinct, also known as Fort Apache.
The 401 was the busiest in the city in all levels of crime.
Hands down, most dangerous square mile in America. Some pretty tough patrol grounds.
So that
I agree.
That was a little bit of what was going on while we were growing up, right? 68, 69. I mean, it was getting worse, but that's and like you said, it was worse up in Fort Apache, but we had we had the buildings, we had similar stuff in our neighborhood.
Hold on a second. Most of what I saw, and I recognize a few of the people that were talking. I would probably say 71, 72, 73. Between 66 and 70 that I was there, it was a different type atmosphere, even though Fort Apache still existed, but it wasn't until the earlier 70s, 71, 72, 3, 4, and 5, those years where the Bronx was actually burning. Things happened that should have never happened, whether it was political or otherwise. The fact that it happened, a lot of people suffer from that. Our generation, between 66 and 70, we were already aware of the changes happening. What we did not do was get caught up in the politics and in the mess of destroying homes and buildings and apartments for the sake of just doing it for the kicks. We were not that kind of crowd. We were fearful and saddened the fact that it happened and we had to see it. That's what bothered me the most. But we would never engage in that. We were from a different. You know what I'm trying to say? We were from a different path.
No, 100%. Because there was, I always like to say about in life, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think a lot of our crowd was the good. We were we were normal kids, but we were mostly good kids, and we were not part of the madness.
And yet we were known as títeres. Títeres from the hood. Well, we never did anything like that. We never killed people. We never, assaulted people and burned buildings.
But we had to, I don't know if you remember. I'm going to throw up some stories from my life too. But this is, what this is right here, right?
Willis Avenue.
The Willis
Avenue Bridge.
Right. So we used to cross the Willis Avenue Bridge to go into Harlem. We used to go swimming at the Jefferson swimming pool on 100 and I believe it was 110th Street.
110th Street, yes.
Right? And
you remember that, yes.
Sneak in at night, the fences would be closed. We climb over the fences. We go swimming at night, right? Because we had no money, sometimes just enough money to buy an icy on the way home.
Oh my goodness gracious! You remember that? Okay, yeah,
or to buy one of these things that we all love, which I'm sure you remember. The best pizza in the world, New York pizza, right? So,
there's an Italian where they sold the ices. They also had the pizza store, Patsy's. It was called Patsy's. You remember that?
Yeah.
That's the pizzeria. It's called Patsy's, and then right next door to that, they sold the ices. We were coming home from swimming all afternoon, and that's the ice cream. I mean, the icy spot. But here's the most interesting thing. I don't know if you got a chance to do this, but if we were able to hitch on a bus to get across to the Bronx, it would be done because we didn't. The money we had, we spent it on ices.
Well, they finally took off those little bumpers because
yes, they did. Right? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. But that was a way of getting across, and I did. Yeah. I don't think you did. I know I did, and there's nothing to brag about. But growing up, you realize things can happen very quickly, John, and you can lose a limb, lose a life.
I don't know if you remember or if you were with me that night. You might not have been with me. I think you might not have been. But we were coming back one evening late at night from swimming at Jefferson Pool. And whoever I was with, as you come across the Willis Avenue Bridge, there's a stairs down to below.
Yes,
bridge,
yes.
right?
You told me that. Yeah, you told me the story.
Yeah. So I don't know who it was, Cologne, some of the boys. Anyway, they start making fun of this guy down below who we used to call back in the day a wino, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're making fun of the guy, and then he decides to come running up the stairs. They take off, and he catches me, and they're gone. He catches me, and just to throw that back up again, that if I can grab it, that I'm going to try and find it. I know I have it here somewhere, but anyway, while I'm talking, so that bridge, it's nighttime. It doesn't look as nice as this, and there's a way to hang. So he hung me over backwards over that bridge.
Yes, he told me.
15 years old, 14 years old, and he threatened to drop me and kill me. So I was talking my way out of it. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. It was them. I didn't say anything. I apologize, brother. So I'm doing all that. And so he hangs me for a while, and I'm like seeing my life come before me. And then
I remember you telling me.
Yeah, and he brings me up, and he goes, I'm going to let you slide this time, bro. He said, but I got something to tell you. Don't ever treat anybody like this. And, I said, no, I won't. But he left me with a message for
That's
life.
my point.
Never.
Look at who he grabbed. Look at who he grabbed and tortured him, where the others who probably started the whole thing were not there to help you. And the advice he gave you was the best advice he can give to any individual.
100%.
When you told me the story, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I said to myself, out of all the bodies that were there, he picked you. Maybe you were too slow. maybe you didn't get away fast enough.
I think I was too slow.
The fact that he caught you is just one of those things. But it only goes to prove that we were not bad people, because if we have been bad people, they would have came back, they would have backed you up, and all of you would have ganged up on him. But that was not the case. You had a story to tell.
Yeah.
And it scared the life out of you.
Hell yeah.
But he had a heart.
It wasn't the only time. I had a couple others like that, getting robbed at Sal's and having a dude put a gun on my head and having to talk my way out of that.
Sal's. As a matter of fact, you got me to work there at the supermarket, the Superette.
That's right.
You got me to work there, and I owe you so much. I have so many memories, John, that it would take more than this show to cover. Matter of fact, I don't even think I want to share it. It's just that, a lot of good times. Here's one. You want to be a big man and show that you can hold a Roman candle in your hand and set it off, but you didn't do it out in the street. No, you did it in your apartment in the bathroom, only to find out, I found out later, that you burned your arm because it backfired on you.
Yeah, well, at the time, I think I was selling fireworks at the time to make some money, right? I don't know who else was selling them with me. It was illegal. We were selling fireworks right on the street, and we went to either, I think, Coney Island that day. We went to Coney Island, and we came back from Coney Island. Great day, fantastic fun, man. And we come back from Coney Island on the train, and we come back to my apartment. I got one Roman candle left. So I go into my bathroom. My mother's in the kitchen. I go into the bathroom. I'm going to fire off this Roman candle. And instead of it shooting up, it shoots back into my hand.
It backfired on you.
Oh, man. And it burned my whole hand. And my mother wanted to take me to the hospital. And we used to call the hospital at that time, Lincoln Hospital, the butcher shop.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, nah, I ain't going to the butcher shop. No, I ain't doing it, man. So I'm laying in bed in massive pain. And then I just started thinking about Coney Island. And I was, having such a good flashback to Coney Island that I fell asleep and forgot the pain. And I woke up the next day with blisters all over my damn hand.
Yeah. I remember you telling me that, you showing me. I remember you showing me your arm, and it was like, it's hard to believe that you went and this happened. But fireworks, as dangerous as it might have been, I remember once putting a firecracker in somebody's back pocket and it blew up. And I said, for the life of me, never. It freaked me out to think that I couldn't do that. The fact that he didn't catch me and I didn't get a whipping behind it, the thought that I could have damaged something to him really made me realize, no, I got to stay away from all of this. I love my boys, but I learned from my boys how to protect myself from my boys, because that influence was a bit much. You stood out. John, you were the exception to a lot of things. I hung out with you because of your kindness, and people respected you because of who you are. Other than that, probably would have never been able to hang out with you, because we did a lot of crazy stuff, bro. Central Park, ice skating in the lake, football in the snow in Berger, and in a Grand Concourse, or was it Grand Concourse, or 138th Street, 137th Street, and that's 141st Street, right?
That's I don't know what street this is.
That looks like 141st.
And then this is 130th.
Yeah, that's St. Jerome's. That's St. Jerome's.
Yeah, that's where I went to
So,
school.
and I say this because you had a different attitude. You might have gotten caught from time to time in certain circumstances, but your attitude and the way you carried yourself, it made it easy for me to gravitate to you. And you didn't look at me like a younger brother. No, I was your boy. We were boys. We were growing up. If you got in trouble, I got in trouble. If I got in trouble and you saw that I messed up, you were going to tell me. You know what I'm saying? But we were not like that. And so when I say between 66 and 70, that attitude that people carried, you got to understand too, the cops were more family friendly to the kids and to the family than from the 70s on up, where all of a sudden they turned around and started attacking the cops that are helping us. How you do things like that? And no wonder why things got out of control.
Well, we
There's
used to
one cop.
with
There's
the
one
top.
cop. There's one cop, Bosco, and the reason why they call him Bosco was because he was black, but he was a community type man with a community type of conscience, and he would play with the kids and hang out, and he would sit by the stoop and talk and let us know about things. But if you double crossed him, or if you did something illegal and think you were going to get away with it, he would be the first one in your face. And I seen him in action. I seen him do these things. Bosco was just a given name, but the guy must have had a heart of gold, because everybody liked him and everybody respected him. They weren't afraid. Whatever he said, take it as gospel. He's not going to lie to you. And a lot of people felt that, well, who's this guy? And that's when attitudes start to change. All of a sudden, cops that are looking after the community are now looking after their own life, because you got creeps out there that feel, no, who's this guy, coming into our area, taking over or helping the community. All of that, I try not to get into that, because really, it's ugly. It's ugly.
But what you're saying is so true. I mean, because he was just somebody. He would take off his gun, give it to his partner, and throw down with you, fist fight.
If he had to,
challenge a man to man. And he was somebody, like you said, he was this tough guy, and at the same, in a tough place, and he just, he cared. He really cared about people, and you knew it. But he wasn't somebody that you could mess with or you could get over on.
You're not supposed to.
He did his job, but he treated everybody with respect. He gave you the respect that he deserved as well. So yeah, I mean, and yet, like you said, and I'm not going to say who or anything like that, but I told you a story about it. But there was at one point I knew a story where somebody who was obviously going down the drug path at that point in their life actually threw a refrigerator off the roof trying to kill him. And luckily did not succeed. And luckily, it all kind of nothing ever happened with it. But that's the neighborhood it was. There was good people, and then there was bad people.
Yeah.
And then because of drugs and because of this thing called,
heroin, goodness gracious.
It got really bad, right? Because then it just took the neighborhood even in a worse turn. And then the neighborhood got even worse because of drug addiction. Well,
you see, that part, the drug part, has always been there. Those individuals that got caught up in it, and I lost a lot of friends behind it, even in the late 60s, early 70s. And I said to myself, wow, it's unfortunate, but it's always been around us. But drugs, John, in the 40s and 50s, that generation also had to deal with these situations. And our generation, from 66 to 70, and the crowd we were in, there might have been one or two people that indulged, but it didn't trickle down until later into the earlier part of the 70s, where those that never did in the 60s and the 70s are all of a sudden a part of that. You know what I'm saying? And that's a piece of a fact that we had to live with. I lost countless friends behind that, and I feel bad. Today I could still remember us having a good time. I cannot imagine them being so lost that they actually lost the battle and lost their life in the process because of these drugs. But that, want to get into politics, and that's a whole different ballgame.
We'll get real quick into that and come quick out of it, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time.
No, I really don't want to indulge in that either.
Yeah. But I kind of, went into that for a period of time. Obviously, as you know, it was part of my journey in the Bronx. But before I go to that, like you said, a lot of people kind of got caught up in heroin. A lot of my friends, and I just got lucky, Carmelo, because I say, looking back on it, my drug was basketball. So luckily, when all my friends would come and say, "Hey, let's go get high," I'd be like, "Yeah," as soon as the basketball game is over. And the basketball game was never over for me. I'd play until 4 o'clock in the morning, right? So I was
Easy.
You know, I almost fall asleep running down the court. That's how
Easy,
crazy I was.
easy.
Crazy, right? And I loved it so much that it gave me something, a positive thing, as opposed to getting caught up in some of the negative. So I got lucky, you know, and I didn't make that other choices. But I hung out with all of them. I hung out when they were high. I hung out when they were doing their thing. But it wasn't my thing. And so I got lucky that way. And that kind of got me through that phase of life. And luckily, I didn't go down that path because it would have been harder. But
Well,
as you know, I mean, being the guy, I'm going to show a quick picture. I remember growing up in that neighborhood, I got involved in the politics. This is the Nation of Islam. I used to buy their newspaper, Muhammad Speaks. I mean, they used to freak out. This white boy would come up to them on 149th Street.
Wait a minute. You're skipping a part here when you started getting into martial arts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You were the only guy in that block that was into martial arts. For some reason, it just trickled down from you. It trickled down, and then when you got into the revolutionary part of politics, I learned all about these guys because of you. The Paper Palante, Malcolm X, Eldridge Cleaver. I learned all of these guys because of you, Mr. John Duffy. You used to have literature and newspapers, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I learned it from you, because if I had learned it any other way, it probably wouldn't have affected me as much. That's the influence you have. When you learn something and you pass it on, you make it your mission to at least pass on the real part of it. You know, you don't bullshit. You say it how it is. You can read it and you can see it. When you were doing martial arts, that was one thing. When you were doing your revolutionary papers on the Black Panthers, the Young Lords, and Malcolm, and it was all a learning experience. A lot of people saw that and felt threatened to the point that they were against the establishment. They don't realize that these people that they're talking about have a war to fight, and that's staying alive. And a lot of them didn't make it. And we know that. When I was in high school, because of what I learned from you in American studies, American histories, I tried passing on some of that information to my classmates and the teacher, only to find out that the teacher did not understand where I was coming from. The class didn't care, and basically made me look like a fool.
Well, you know, you just went through so much.
And the weird thing, I got it in black and white. I'm showing it to them. Look, this is the Black Panthers thing. And then on the other side of that, there's a big article on the Ponce massacre, which happened in Ponce, Puerto Rico, about 1934, where there was a massacre for people were protesting, and the government just felt that they wanted to, get rid of this, and literally open fire on these innocent people that were just protesting for whatever. Anyway, I mentioned this to my teacher in the class, and they looked at me like I had three heads. And so the teacher tells me, in a nutshell, maybe the people got what they deserve. I said to myself, and you call yourself a history teacher? At that point, I said to myself, wow, man, as much as I love school, this is not working. I'm already in my fourth year of high school. This is not working, but yet I'm carrying literature that I, at one point or another, learned from you. But so, to exercise it is a whole different, matter.
So to kind of just, because I want to get on to some music stuff with you, but just to kind of go through a rush quick thing with you. So I dropped out of high school when I was 15. I got into Kung Fu, Wushu down in Manhattan.
Yes, you did.
I went into this school for 2 years. I became a junior instructor. And it was kind of funny, once again, just because of the neighborhood, most of the people who were at my school studying were Black Panthers, Black Muslims, Young Lords, and then me, right? So we were at the school with this Chinese instructor who was fantastic. But he gave me, once again, a gift. But for those 2 years, I learned values. I learned to respect people, to respect myself, that know how to defend yourself, but don't get into trouble. Don't look for trouble. Know how to, if trouble comes your way, you can defend yourself. but you're never going to start trouble. That's not what
That's
it's about. Never
that's
start trouble, right?
that's what I'm talking
So
about.
he gave me the values for a lifetime. So I did it for 2 years, got injured, and I wasn't able to go any further, unfortunately, but I still have it as part of my body. But I want to just do a shout out. He came up on here. He said a shout out to Carmelo, another survivor of the concrete jungle and the mean streets of the South Bronx, Ed Go-Go Gomez. So our brother Ed is watching the show. I'm going to have Ed on next week, hopefully from the Dominican Republic, from the DR. And he's another person that, you know, we lived on the basketball courts together. You know, he said, what a great neighborhood with our African-American, Puerto Rican, Irish, and Italian brothers. Right on, Ed. So I went through all that phase, and then, of course, the political phase, and I did that, all that stuff. And to me, we were trying, the reason I got into all the radical stuff was to make the neighborhood better, to change things. Because to me, drugs was bad, gangs were bad. They weren't doing anything good, and we needed to do something good. So that's why we all had to do it, do something good, right? So that's kind of what got me into it and where we went on that journey. For you, you went on a separate journey, and I want to get to your journey because, you know, tell us about what I'm gonna pivot right now.
But before I forget, you see, you didn't introduce me to this with it maliciousness in mind. No, this is what's happening. Learn about it. Learn to recognize it and talk about it. Those are the things that you were giving us. You wasn't giving us ways of how to get even or how to bomb someplace or jump some crowd. No. That's not what you were doing, and with the martial arts and with the radical learning about the system, you wasn't about let's be mean, let's be heartless. That wasn't what you were talking about. What you were talking about, read and learn and find out why it is what it is. John, we're in 2023. In 1970, 71, which is what I was talking about earlier, between 71 and 75, maybe even 76, 77, 78, pretty much the 70s, politics ate up the Bronx. And it was those people that just did not realize the only way to fix this is through means of communication, not destroying areas that we loved and grew up in. That's not what it's about. You know who was talking like that too? Felipe Luciano. Felipe Luciano, he's one of the Young Lords members. And his thing is, you know, people, educate yourself so that you can understand why we are where we are. Not that we're gonna, you know, get together and destroy a neighborhood just for the sake of doing it. No, you're literally taking people out of their homes and you're literally burning neighborhoods that people need to live in. Before I forget, one of the things I appreciate about you and Mr. Eduardo Gomez, aka Gogo, is that you guys always choosed up teams. And it didn't matter what team I was in because I know I was going to be in the cool side no matter what. I'm going to play. I'm going to be part of this. But that was go-go. Whether it was basketball, whether it was football, whether it was hitting a Spalding on the stoop, stickball, or whatever. That was the people we were. We were about fun. We were living in slums, but we didn't see slums. We saw caring people. Our families took care of everyone else. Their families took care of us. Your mom's was an angel. Your mom's was when I met your moms, I said to myself, holy cow, she's still living here. Other people would have given up and say, I'm out. Your mom's was there from whatever time you guys moved in until she couldn't take it no more. I believe she moved out to, did she go back to Ryan?
No, we finally convinced her. It took a lot of convincing. Me and my brother got her up to Arthur Avenue. But the funny thing,
that was in the late 70s, though, right?
Yeah, it got really bad, and yet people actually looked out for her. Even kids who had gotten into heroin,
looked out for her.
They didn't rob her. They didn't do anything.
No.
Everybody looked out for her. Which was an amazing thing. But we finally said, enough's enough. We got to get you out of here. We kind of muscled her out, and we took her up to Arthur Avenue at that point.
But she was a godsend to a lot of people, where we live, man. They looked out for her, and we knew who she was, and she knew who the whole block was.
But it was the thing, all of us, and that's why I get back to that, what we were saying, growing up together. Like everybody would come over and eat at my house because she would make hamburgers or steak, because that's all she knew how to make, right? And I would go over to your house or Cologne's house and eat Puerto Rican food because to me, that's what I wanted. I didn't want my food. I was tired of my food. I wanted great Puerto Rican food. So we got a food exchange program.
I'm gonna tell you something, John, because I realized, and we talked about this once before, you and I. We have so much to exchange and so many years. This show is not going to cover it.
You think? I don't
even
think
and the little highlight we gave them, to me, is all about what you've done for me. What I do for you is that I love you, and brother, my hair is standing on ends, and that will never change.
Thank you, brother.
And I'm grateful.
Well,
I'm grateful.
And we've gotten a chance to stay connected over the years. You've come out here to LA. I'll show you some pictures later. I went to Orlando, stayed with you. But before I get into that part of it, I got to get to the most important part of who you are, is music. Musica, brother. So,
well, I tell you what. I was practicing something. I know you have a birthday coming up, so it's a very simple theme, and we know what it is. But this is my version to you because I love you, and this is not to be sold. Okay, so bear with me.
All right. So this is a special.
I will probably lower the volume. Oh, I like that. I like that.
That's one of your pictures. Yeah, that's a great picture, man, of you on the drums, and I got it from your Facebook page. Now look at before you start, just for everybody, look at that collection of music behind him. OMG, as they say, the kids say. That's just an amazing collection of music. This is somebody who loves music and started out when he was a little kid. So I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna matter of fact, I am gonna take myself out of this and just let you go stage so you can play and we can watch this. I'm gonna take my picture out, so hang with me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, John Duffy. Happy birthday to you. Wow. Hey. Oh man. That's the blessing of our friendship after all these years. Thank you, my good brother. John. Love you, man. Love you. Thank you for that. That is, I knew you had a surprise. I had no clue it was going to be that. Thank you so much, man. Thank you, brother.
I learned how to separate my left and my right with different times for different instruments. That's a gift from God. That's a gift he gave me since I was a child. Before I met you, I had no clue about music yet. My mother would have albums. I'm making a long story short. There were albums being heard at home. When I met you, at that point, I was already at PS49. I learned to play trumpet from the 4th grade to the 6th grade, then from the 7th grade to the 8th grade. Anyway, and that's how I learned my music. I didn't see it the way I see it today. I've been in there for so long and done so much that it's become part of it's the ticker in my heart. You remember saying to yourself, I'm walking in rhythm? You ever did that?
Uh-huh.
Okay. You walk in rhythm. You have a crazy walking rhythm. You do. And you know the funny thing, you used to walk down the block and there goes Duffy. Where you going? I don't know, but let's go over there. He's going to do something. Something's going to happen because he's walking down the block. Okay. But I learned all of that through the years. And that gift that God gave me, I'm able to pass on to you like I did today in church, John. And what mattered was that I was playing. What mattered was that the message was being received. I was receiving it. And from here, it went out there and the people enjoy it. This is not a loud place where people, oh, hallelujah. No, it's a Catholic church. So you got to be respectable. You got to you got to remember that this is not all out music. No, this is controlled music. And that's what I learned, how to control. You taught me a long time ago about control. You may not realize it, but yes, you did. Among those that has passed away, I could name names, but I'm not. And I'm grateful that they, in my lifetime, were part of my life. And that's why I love you so much, brother.
Well, thank you. I love you.
You're still here.
And you're on my birthday show, man. So I'm like, but anyway, your cousin Lillian said that's her cousin. She's watching us. Hey, Lillian, shout out to Lillian. Love
Lillian,
you too.
Yeah. That's Victor's sister. That's Victor's older sister.
And then, of course, Eduardo wished me a happy birthday, his Irish brother. Thank you, Eduardo. And you're on the show next week from the DR, man. We're going to go strong again. But, the thing, some of the stuff with music, I want to go there and then later because I don't want to come in because I'm going to go into some of the people later at a sad moment. But it's the same crowd. But like you were telling me the other day about music, you were listening to country music from your folks, right?
My stepfather. Yeah, my stepfather. Yeah.
And then you said I introduced you to a whole set of music, which you reminded me.
You are influential, and you didn't realize it.
So tell us that story, man. Go a little bit.
Okay. I didn't know about Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell till you told me. I didn't know about the Temptations and Supremes doing a single album together till you told me. I didn't know about Stevie Wonder's or Smokey Robinson till you told me. Why? Because you used to come down the block with 45s you just purchased. And you were the only one that was carrying soul music in your hands. 45s is the way it be. I would have probably heard of them eventually, but not at that moment. Duffy made sure of that. But John, I also learned about Blood, Sweat, and Tears because of you. I also learned about 10 years of the band because of you. I also learned, I can go on and on.
Well, I gave you the rock stuff because my brother Pat, who was older than me, he brought the rock to me, and then I shared the rock to you. But it was
good rock. It was good rock. It wasn't outrageous rock. It was good rock.
It was great. But I was into soul. He was into rock. You were into salsa and all music. You were into everything.
I was absorbing everything I can get.
You had the gift. You had the gift of music, and I was just a listener. And soul music I loved it. So it was what I was. I grew up on. That's kind of who I was. So yeah, man, those were fun times. I'm gonna throw up a couple of pictures of you and then we'll talk more. But this is just a series of pictures of you playing.
Yeah, that's a concert we did out here. Oh, that's a concert in Central Park, the first time ever.
Park, yeah. Here's another one with all the drums. Those three guys there, very close. Matter of fact, the guy on the opposite, right next to the photo on the wall, next to the picture on the wall, he is very influential also. His name is Juan Rodriguez. The guy to his right is Angelo Barreto. His father was a composer of Cuban music. And he did a lot of things for a lot of different people back in his day. That's his son, Angelo Barreto. The guy on Angelo's right is actually the owner of the apartment, and those drums are all his. Wow. And we just decided to go up there one day, and there they were. And so we just grabbed the drum and started playing. And here
Yeah, this is my boy Juan. And Carlos. Carlos is a dancer, guitarist, just a wonderful person. And the guy behind him is a bass player. I forget his name, man, but awesome people. John, I oh my goodness gracious! How dare you?
I'm just here's you singing too.
Holy, well, yeah, you could say that. She is her name is Awilda. She did two of our CDs that I'm on, and she's the lead singer on several songs. Yeah, she's awesome. And that's Angel Rodriguez on the far end to the left, and Tito Puente in the middle, and Willie Rodriguez next to on my right. Willie Rodriguez is Ray Rosado's brother-in-law, and he knew me from '69. He's out here in Florida. So yeah, and then the guy on Angel's left. Well, this was in City Island. The guy on Angel's left, trombonist, band leader, and it was his group, and we're playing at this penthouse type situation when Puente walked in. The number's already cooking, and Puente walks in, grabs the sticks, and starts to solo. I was in heaven.
And for those who don't know, if anybody doesn't know, Tito Puente is just like a superstar, right? He is
major. Matter of fact, Celia Cruz, Machito, Miguelito Valdez, Benny Moré, all of those characters you see right there are characters that shape what Latin music is today. And it continues to be because of them. And
to play with, people like that, and just, you coming from the South Bronx and just ending up, because of your love of music, because of that whole wall behind you of, I don't know, I got to say it's over 1,000.
I don't even count it. Because every day I try to listen to old stuff, new stuff, and just get my bearings as to what it means to me. I'm not out to sell. I'm not out to make money from souls that passed away and this is what they left. No, but I'm grateful that they're out there. I'm grateful that I'm able to listen to these things. Man, there are times I sit here and I say to myself, wow, our parents, they had it good as far as music is concerned. Politically speaking, they didn't realize it, but they were going to be messed up. But as far as music was concerned, they had the best. Puente, Machito, Tito Rodriguez, and on and on and on.
And, the last time I was down, that's us in your place right there in Orlando. And, the whole time that I'm there with you, it's a picture of me and you shaking hands. But, you're like giving me an education. And then check out this song. And then check out that song. And you're like, like I'm sitting there like I feel like I'm in a music.
No. Hold on a second. There was we were listening to the radio when something came on, and we were listening to Christian radio, right. And something came on and it caught your attention. You said, Carmelo, I like this. And I realized to myself, oh, this is another side of John I've never seen before. Christian music is beautiful. As a matter of fact, it was going on today, both in all sorts of communities. If you're into Christian music, you're going to hear all different types. The awards, the Grammys, the Country Music Awards, all of these things are being influenced with Christian music and Christian people that are. God is the only man we need to, pray to. This is not about souls. No, we pray to him. He's giving us all of this. When I heard you were listening to this thing, so we just bought the latest of where am I quickly? Yes. Miss Lauren Daigle. This is her latest CD. You can't see it.
Well, that's what was on the radio that day, Lauren Daigle.
Yes.
And I listen to her all the time. She's very what a talent. and the music's beautiful.
And when I found out that you were into her, I said to myself, John, this is another level of John I've never seen before. God bless him. He's only going to enjoy it more and more. Yes, you did play something earlier. She was on one of the talk shows the other night, and my wife told me about it. And I said, oh, man, we missed it. But yeah, she's an incredible singer. She writes her own words and shares it with the piano player. They make up the music. They go to the studio and do what they do. And I'm so grateful to learning about her.
Yeah, she was excellent, and we had a great time because then you took, then you played some additional Christian music that you were listening to, and we got a chance to share and listen to all that. I know you can't read it on your screen, and I gotta read it even though it's long because my boy Eduardo is.
We grew up cultural and social revolution.
Cultural and social revolution. Our musicians were artists, poets. They described what we were living. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, Mercy Mercy, Revolution by Smith, Curtis Mayfield, We the People, We Are Darker Than Blue, Willie Colon attended high school. We were a hub of great people like Nate Archibald, Willie Colon, and yes, Bosco was an awesome police officer who even played.
That's our life. That's our life. You just read our life right there.
Right on, Eduardo Go Gomez, my good brother, man, from the D.
I'm looking forward to hearing that program. But you know something, John, before we log off and stuff. Thank you for being in my life, brother. If God forbid anything should happen to either you or me, I've been touched with your blessings. Thank you, God. Because of him, I'm grateful to you. Yeah, I didn't think you got emotional on apologize.
There ain't a lot that can get me quiet, Carmelo, but you just did, man.
I say that because
much love, man.
A quick story. I was talking to a good buddy of mine, Mr. Raymond Rosado. He passed away not too long ago, 3 years ago. He's the leader of the group that I made the CDs with. Anyway, so in the process of talking about the third CD, something that was going on in there, I'm on the phone here in my house in Florida. He's in the Bronx. And so we got talking, and I said something, and he disagreed, and I disagreed, and so we hung up. And I said, you know what, I'm going to call him back to make sure that we understand what we were talking about. Well, he didn't pick up the phone that day. He didn't pick it up the next day. He didn't pick it up the next day. That Saturday, I found out he was gone. My heart has been broken since, brother. I have my wife, and I love my wife. And I'm grateful to the Lord for giving me every day. But when I lost friends like Raymond Rosado, it makes me realize that you, John Duffy, as long as you're alive, and we're gonna share this forever. But the day one of us fade out, I'm blessed to have you. And that means more to me than all the monies in the world, buddy. And all the music in the world.
I'm going to just throw up, since we're on a kind of sad but appreciative note, because we've been in our lives. And I want to throw up somebody who also was in our life, because you'll see all the people in that picture, which is Willie Russian, who we grew up with, who was a musician.
Oh, my goodness.
And when he passed, and this is the group that was at.
My goodness. You got Juan Rodriguez there. You got Danny De Valle. You got Victor Maldonado. You got a few other people there that knew Willie. I may not have known them, but they knew Willie really well.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people that you know, all from the block, and former girlfriend of mine, Lucia Hernandez from the Bronx. So just a whole group of people. And then you remember this picture right here, right?
Oh my goodness. That's Doña Elma, man. That's Papos and Mary Martinez. That's Mrs. Martinez. That lady, man, talk about godsend. John, let me tell you something, brother. I didn't get lost because there were people there that cared for me. That lady there took care of the block like your moms took care of the block. She was no different. You know? You shouldn't have put that up. She's blowing me up, man. You're messing me up.
She was an angel. She touched our heart. She lived in the projects across the street. She was an incredible angel. And then I got the opportunity, and just like you say, these are all my friends for a lifetime, people I grew up with. And this is, you know, you may recognize this opportunity and this family, the Martinez family, right?
That's Melba. That's Melba and Mary.
And Mary, right? And they made me a dinner when I got down there, and I took my daughter on a tour of my neighborhood with Willie's daughter and Willie, and we went and had dinner with them, and we hung out and we reminisced about the South Bronx, man. So all those moments, all those magic moments, all those things that I've been blessed in my life to have those people in my life. And of course, that's why you're on the show on my birthday, singing me, of all things, happy birthday, brother. I am so blessed, grateful, and say, hey, God's definitely, I didn't plan this out the way it was. God obviously had a bigger plan for me, and he took me on a journey, and I'm so grateful for that journey.
Well,
so grateful that he kept you in my life.
Thank you for carrying me along.
Hey,
thank you for carrying me along, man. It'll last with me for the rest of my life.
We both carried each other, and I know sometimes people who ain't been from the streets and ain't been from the bottom like we have, when you get on the phone with me and we talk, that day is a blessing to me. I get off that phone, and no matter what's going on in my life, I just got blessed that day because the conversation is one of a love between two brothers.
But let me say this, because where we came from and how we grew up, no, we make the difference. We make the difference. You have a choice of doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing. It's just basic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And if you can't decide that, then you're in trouble. I'm just fortunate, to make some of the right choices, because even when we dropped out from each other's lives, John, there were situations that I said to myself, no, you don't need to be here. You better move, and you better think about what you're doing. Get out of here and do what you have to do to not be here. And as much as I love music was an influence in such ways that if I'm not on stage, then I'm out there doing what I'm not supposed to be doing. I try to get the best out of being a musician, and that's being on stage. I be on stage and I'm a whole different person. I'm out about walking the streets of New York or Florida. Now I have to look out for myself and do the right thing. And that I learned from my buddies like you, like Ray, and those that has gone on, and those that are still around. And I'm just grateful. Victor, I speak to Victor from time to time, and he's done a lot of things with different groups. And I saw firsthand, I don't know if I want to be that. You know what? I don't want to be famous. I don't want to make big money. I don't care if I'm known. I just want to be able to enjoy myself and see people enjoying themselves because of what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't want to sell my soul, and just sell my soul and get nothing out of it. No, it's got to be give and take. This is what it's about.
Well, good brother, I'm going to close out. I already went over the 1 hour mark, but I knew that.
Oh my God. I tell you, this is not enough time.
We did the Cliff Notes version, this is only a little short intro to the life we had together and the great things we
if people that are seeing this, the one thing I would appreciate that they come away with was that we are survivors, but we're no different from what they've gone through. And I've seen a lot of your programming, bro. And let me tell you, I can't even compare to what they've been through, only to come out on the other side. Okay. So yeah, your show means a lot. You just mean a lot to me, period. But your show gave these people a platform to express themselves. And I've heard a lot of stuff, and I'm like, wow, man, I couldn't imagine myself being in that position. You know what I'm saying? So, and they came out on the other side. So that's grateful. God's helping them because God lives.
Well, brother, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for for all the things you just shared, all the music, all your life, the fact that, we're brothers and we love each other for life. And I'm just honored and blessed for that.
Okay.
Thing. And
okay.
So thank you. So anything you want to finish with? Otherwise, I'm going to just kind of tell people about next week and, watch this show, man. I'm blown away by it. I'm going to watch it again because
what comes to mind, John, is a prayer. But I don't like to be boisterous, and I don't want to. But a prayer to our Lord for keeping us safe and showing us the right way. is all I got to say, and I'm grateful for that, and I want to continue being that way. Just take good care of yourself, and I look forward to listening to your next shows. I'm grateful for what you just did, and this is what we do, bro. This is what we do. I was telling that to my wife. I don't sing happy birthday.
Love you too. I'm gonna put. Hey, this is the picture of his better half together with him. And I love you. Thank you. Thank you
Like I said,
much.
I don't get a chance to tell this to too many people. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, and I'm glad that we were able to do it, and this just makes my birthday
Okay.
so special, man. I appreciate you, brother.
I could send you a few $100. I just don't have it.
Hey,
But your love.
$100 or even $1 million could not match what you did by playing Happy
That's
Birthday.
what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, brother. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, sir. My love to you, brother. All right. And thank you so much for the opportunity. We'll call each other again offline so that, I hope
You can stay on, mother. I'm going to take you off, but stay on. Don't go off yet. I'm going to close the show out. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I just want to, what a journey through my life, through Carmelo's life, through the South Bronx, and what a show. You get a little idea of who I am and what I'm about, and just a little bit of the journey, my life from yesterday to the Bronx, and then obviously to the future. So next week, join me again. Hopefully, we'll be able to make the next connection from the South Bronx, mine to Hollywood and his to the Dominican Republic. And you saw some of his comments on the show today. Eduardo Gogo Gomez, an amazing brother who we grew up on the streets playing sports, and he went on. I went to the Dominican Republic and got to hang out with him in his homeland. He's back. He went back to Florida. Now he's back in the DR, and he has a powerful story of making a difference in the world. So you got to watch that. And once again, another one of the brothers that I was blessed to grow up with in the South Bronx. And so join me next Sunday. And you want to give me a birthday gift? Subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's free. Subscribe. Just go to Live Courageously, John Duffy, and subscribe so you can get notified about future shows. So with that said, have a great day. I'll see you next weekend at 2 p.m. Sunday. And until then, make your life a masterpiece, and God bless.